The most important thing isn't the legal process. The most important thing is protecting that loved one immediately.
Are seniors in nursing homes at a greater risk for abuse because of the coronavirus? That's what we're going to ask today on Ask the Lawyer. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest is attorney Tad Thomas of the Thomas Law Offices in Louisville, Kentucky. Tad, thank you for making some time for us today to answer our questions.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
So this is not something I even thought about. So explain to me why seniors could be even at more of a risk during this time of coronavirus.
Well, we're worried about a lot of things. In addition to all of the risks that come from the virus itself, by locking down the facilities and not allowing the families to come in, you now put the nursing home residents at even a greater risk for a couple of reasons. One is when family comes in and visits their loved ones in a nursing home, there's some level of accountability for the staff. If the staff knows they're going to have visitors, things tend to get done like they're supposed to get done and not forgotten. You know, like picking up trays, making sure residents are fed, making sure meds are passed. Also, family members give an extra level of care. A lot of times family members are coming in and they're the ones that are helping with feeding. They're the ones that are helping take residents to the restroom or making sure that they get the care that they need. And so by pulling those loved ones out of the facility, the residents have a lower level of care than they did, a month ago.
So my next question, Tad, was going to be, what are some of the warning signs that there might be neglect or abuse? But if the loved ones aren't able to go in, they wouldn't even see those signs, right?
Right. And to the greatest degree possible, the staff at the facility should be helping families communicate with their loved ones, at least with the loved ones that have the ability to communicate. They ought to be setting up video calls. They ought to be making sure that residents can call their loved ones and talk about, what their conditions are. If your loved one's in a resident or is a resident of a facility where they're not doing that and they're not communicating with you on a regular basis, you should be concerned and you should be reporting it either to the facility director, the director of nursing, or a lot of facilities have what's called an ombudsman, someone who works with families. The squeaky wheel gets the grease in a lot of respects. So be that squeaky wheel.
What other advice do you have so I could help make sure that my loved one in a facility is being protected or is being taken care of?
You should be calling every day. You should be, talking to whoever the caregivers are that are seeing your loved one as much as possible. If there's a way that you can send in a phone or something to be able to help, communicate with your loved one, that's probably the best thing that you can do right now. Unfortunately, don't go in and challenge the facility's lockdown orders and say that in demand to see your loved one. By doing that, you would be placing them at a greater risk. We need to make sure that we keep the virus out of these communities as much as we can. And tragically, that's the best way we can do it right now.
So what is the next step then, if beyond talking to the ombudsman or contacting, if I suspect there's some neglect or abuse, Tad, at what point do I get someone like yourself involved?
You can call a law firm when your loved one tells you, they've got a bed sore, or they suffered a fall. Some of the other things you can do in addition to calling a law firm like mine is calling the state. Every state has a department that's in charge of investigations. Every facility has an annual inspection. Unfortunately, those inspections are now halted because of the virus. However, if something has happened to your loved one and you think that they're in serious danger, call the state ombudsman, call the state OIG, so the Office of Inspector General, and make a complaint and ask them to investigate. Because if it rises to a certain level where they're getting enough complaints from a facility, then they will go into that facility and take a look and make sure that things are being done the way they should.
Is that your recommendation, to contact the state before I contact an attorney, or does it matter what order we do that in?
It really doesn't matter what order, but in any time where I get a call from a family and their loved one is still in the facility, I recommend they call the state and make a complaint, because the most important thing isn't the legal process. The most important thing is protecting that loved one immediately.
And how big of an issue is, I mean, just in general times, without the coronavirus edition, how big of an issue is nursing home abuse, Tad?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, it's a big problem, especially with larger companies. Firms like mine that do this all over the country and do a lot of these cases, we know that these facilities are always understaffed. Very rarely do they have the staff necessary to give the care that they need. Certain states, like Kentucky, for instance, do not have minimum staffing levels that are mandated by the state. So the easiest way for these companies to make money is by limiting the number of staff that are there to care for residents. So what you have is, up until the virus hit, you already had facilities that were chronically understaffed, that were not giving the care that they needed. Now that you have the virus, you have residents who need more care because they're being fed in their rooms, they can't get out. And then you have staff who are contracting the virus and are being pulled out of the facility. So you had already a bad problem with staffing and the amount of care that was given to residents, compounded by the virus. We really feel like once the veil is lifted on these facilities, we're going to see a lot of problems.
I'm shocked to hear that there's not a minimum staffing requirement there in Kentucky. That's really surprising.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of states that are like that. In many of the states that have minimum staffing requirements, those of us who handle these cases frequently don't feel that a lot of those states even rise to the level that they should.
So let's say that I think there's a problem. I contact an attorney, or I'm thinking of contacting an attorney, Tab, but I'm thinking I can't afford a personal injury attorney to help me with this. What do you say to that?
For these types of cases, any good law firm that handles these types of cases on a frequent basis work on what's called a contingent fee basis, which means they're going to help you and they're only going to get paid if they're successful in litigating the case. That means if there's money from a settlement that comes in or a verdict at trial, that's when they get paid. Any good law firm, you should be asking them, do you work on a contingent fee basis? They should also be fronting and advancing any case expenses. In our firm, we pay for all the depositions, filing fees, any of the expenses necessary to pursue justice for your family. We pay, and then we only get reimbursed if we're successful at the back end of the case. So it should never be a money issue for a family to pursue justice for their family member.
Really helpful information, Tad. Thank you for taking some time to help us today.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Tad Thomas of Kentucky. Remember, if you want the best information or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, make sure to go to askthelawyer.com. Also, please take a sec to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking below. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com.